Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. I've got another video for you today where I'm kind of talking about something a little bit odd. Now, in the past few videos I've done some odd videos such as the fortification video, where I believe they are now almost an auto-include, and this is another one of those oddball units that we don't tend to use that often, which could potentially be making a comeback. So, today we're going to be talking about the Doomstalker. Now, I've written off the Doomstalker in this edition, or this chapter approved part of the edition, because, well, D6 amount of shots, D6 damage, not very good for, what it does in terms of heavy support. When you're comparing them to Locust Heavy Destroyers, for example, they're just not going to do it compared to other factions within the actual game. But I do have a reason to take them, and I wanted to share that with you today. So in the Nephilim chapter approved book, we were able to use vehicles to do our Ancient Machinery secondary objective, because they have the core keyword, and previously Ancient Machineries allowed for core vehicles to do the action. All they needed to do is just have the core keyword. They've since have removed that in the new Arks of Omen book, and vehicles can no longer do the action. So this meant that our Annihilation barges that we dusted off our shelves, we were bringing into our games to do the Ancient Machinery secondary objective, and because they're quite a resilient model with quantum shielding and all that jazz, we were using them to do the action. Well, now we can't, so you're putting them back on the shelves for another edition, I guess, maybe in 10th, who knows. But this is maybe where there is a place for the Canoptek Doomstalker, so hear me out. So, Ancient Machineries, let's just quickly go through what it's actually about. So a Necron's core unit and a Necron's Canoptek unit can do the following action. Now, of course, it needs to be a core infantry unit or core biker, or a Necron's Canoptek unit doesn't have any sort of restrictions, it's just anyone with the Canoptek keyword. And of course, the Canoptek Doomstalker will have the Canoptek keyword. So what I'm trying to get at is our Doomstalkers can do this action as normal. Now what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be comparing the reasons to take this to the reasons that we previously used the Annihilation barge to do that action. So first of all, well, the Annihilation barge was moving 12 inches, so it was moving slightly faster than a Doomstalker can, only at 10 inches there. Also, the Annihilation barge could fly, that's another advantage for the barge. And then the third advantage was the fact that it was slightly cheaper, 10 points cheaper if you take the Tesla options. Now as for the Doomstalker, well, it has 12 wounds as opposed to 8. That's the first advantage for the Doomstalker, so even though you're paying 10 points more, you are getting actually 4 wounds more, which are also toughness 6 and a 3+ armor save. So for that 10 points, you're actually getting not a bad deal there. Now you do lose the quantum shield ability with the Doomstalker, but you now have a containment field armor save, which is the 4+ invulnerable save, which the Annihilation barge is not going to have. It's got a 5+ invulnerable save with a quantum shield save. So now you may be thinking, well, a Canoptek Doomstalker needs to stay stationary in order to fire the heavy profile of its blaster. And you would be correct in saying that, of course. Now you can move and still fire the blaster, but instead of having it at 48 inches with strength 10, -5 AP and D6 damage, instead you're going to be getting 24 inches only. It's only going to be strength 8, -2 AP and D3 damage, so slightly less in terms of all the stats for the blaster there. But remember, we're doing the action anyway, so we're not really that bothered too much about actually using the weapon profile, unless you're using the command protocol of Sunstorm perhaps, to be able to do the action and still fire. But why this could be useful is, if you're not playing an objective secured dynasty like the Nihilite dynasty or Eternal Conquerors, then you need to wait until your next command phase in order to have the action complete. So if you've got a Canoptek Doomstalker doing this action, it's less likely to die. It's got that invuln save, it's quite resilient, 12 wounds, and I'd say it was even more resilient than an Annihilation barge in some aspects. Now of course it's not moving as quick as an Annihilation barge, but it's only 2 inches. 10 inches is still plenty to run up the battlefield. It's going to cause a distraction, almost like a distraction card effect, because your opponent is going to want to get rid of it, and now that it's doing actions at speed and with resiliency on top of that, so you could even boost this further. You can take, say, some Canoptek Scarab Swarms to shield this thing, because the Scarab Swarms, okay, they could also do the Ancient Machineries, don't get me wrong, but they can be chewed upon and just shot down quite comfortably because they've only got toughness 3, 6+ armor save. Yeah, a lot of weapons are just going to go straight through their armor and remove those Scarab Swarms off the tabletop, but it doesn't apply in the same way with the Canoptek Doomstalker. Much more resilient, much more likely to stick around until your next turn. Now of course, if you are playing one of those objective secure dynasty codes, then you're going to do it within the same turn. You may not necessarily need to use this, but those more distant objectives that are in your opponent's deployment zone perhaps, you need to work out, how am I going to score those with Ancient Machineries? How am I going to get the action done? And by moving 10 inches for a couple of turns to get your Doomstalker up the battlefield, may be a potential way of doing so. Now, one other thing to add to this video is the fact that we could potentially use the Canoptek Reanimator for this role, because of course the Canoptek Reanimator has the Canoptek keyword, but these things, okay, they're 80 points, so they are cheaper, but they've only got toughness 5, they've only got 6 wounds, they've got no invulnerable save whatsoever. At this point, you may as well just take 5 Canoptek Scarab Swarms for 75 points, which is almost the same as having an 80 point Reanimator, isn't it? But with those Canoptek Scarab Swarms, you're going to have 20 wounds and not just 6. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is super competitive, I'm not saying that at all, but I'm trying to think of unique ideas of units that we may not be using in this certain way. End of the day, we've been nerfed with our secondaries, we're trying to adapt to different ones. We can go with the generic options, or we can try and find better ways of actually scoring our Necron specific ones with this new chapter approved. So guys, let me know what you think about this one. Is this one worth doing? Is this one worth taking into tournaments? Probably not in my opinion. I think the Doomstalkers are still a little bit below par for me personally. But if you are someone that really likes to take Ancient Machineries as one of your secondaries, is it worth taking? Let me know down in the comments below. Guys, that's all from me today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.